Hey there, Battletech fans. I wanted to put this out there for you to sort of digest and sort of comment on. It's a conversation kind of popped into my head recently as I'm getting back into Battletech, and now I've got not lots, several games under my belt. As you can see, a lot of mechs under my belt now too. I got 24 battle mechs for House Karita all painted up, and it kind of got me to thinking about, well, how many mechs do you need before you decide it's time to move on? And of course, there's no right answer to that question, right? It's just a question. It's a philosophical question, but it's an interesting question. I think it's like if you've got the passion to play an army of any war game, but particularly in BattleTech, where your army is kind of 4 mechs or 5 mechs if you're playing the clans maybe, but you can hot swap out or you can swap out any number of mechs for any different type of engagement or mission or play style that you really want to. And again, there's really no right answer to this question, but when do you feel like you've painted enough mechs to say, you know what, I'm good and I can play this group of mechs for a while and still have fun with it. That doesn't mean I can't come back to it and continue to add to it. But like, when do you say I've got enough to kind of play with this comfortably? Like I can play with these mechs, I can do lots of good combinations of different various games with them. But like, when do you decide it's time to move on? I'll be honest, like I've painted up 24 mechs here for House Karita, and I'm really pretty happy with them. It's not that I want to drop House Karita, but it's like I want to get a little bit more variety in my games. I want to do a little bit something different. So I've started painting up some House Davian mechs. And I've done some weathering on these guys, and I'm having an absolute blast with these guys. Now I've got some more House Krita stuff on the painting table, and I've got some more House Davian stuff on the painting table, and I feel like, you know, I've got some good variety with the Krita. I could play those guys for a good long time. And we're talking 30-25 inner sphere. I've got a couple of things in here that's not necessarily 30-25, like the Raven. Where did my Wolfhound go? Right over there. And honestly, the Wolfhound isn't necessarily a Karita mech, but I'm saying it was salvaged. They stole it. That's what happened. But anyways, like, I've got 4 House Davian mechs painted, and I want to paint these guys. Now, these guys are a little bit more of a chore to paint because I put a lot more effort, particularly in the shading and the edge highlighting and whatnot. And they've been fun, but, they're a fair amount of work. But I'm really excited to have a different faction that I could play, narratively on the tabletop. But like, when do for you hardcore enthusiasts, like when do you decide to move on? Like I'm thinking, there's one way to look at it. You've got several mechs in each weight class, that you can kind of hot swap in, or, you can kind of make 3 or 4 different lances that make sense. Or you could say, hey, it doesn't matter. I just put together a lance and these are the ones that I'm having fun with, and you can kind of keep playing those or whatnot. But I guess I'm finding that, there's no right answer, but it's an interesting question to ponder. Is like, how do you keep that hobby creativity going? 1, 2, how do you have enough stuff to kind of keep you interested in hot swapping with one faction, with different scenarios or different missions, while maybe you paint up another? Or do you just go with the flow and you paint what you want? I guess I'm kind of more of the latter. It's like, hey, this is what I like, this is what I painted, and that's how I maintain kind of my hobby mojo. But it's also nice to know that I have enough of a force here that I could kind of create any BattleTech engagement on, at different battle value levels or at different types of engagements with different types of mechs. And I'm just curious, particularly for those of you who have been in the BattleTech hobby for a while, how do you kind of look at this? How do you decide when you think it's time to bring on, when do you decide to take on a new Lance project? Right. And I think for me that time came when, I've painted enough of these. I feel like I can do enough variation that I can, comfortably move on. Now, I don't know if I'm going to paint the same number of Davian mechs as I've painted for Karita. Maybe I will. But I find myself being drawn to, now I'm kind of getting the bug. Like I want to do a Merc force, and I want to do a Comstar force. And maybe I go down that rabbit hole. And I guess the way I'm looking at it is, like I said, I've got enough to play now, but now I can kind of start exploring and see where I go with this, and see what comes up on the hobby bench, and then therefore the tabletop. Interested in your thoughts. Where do you go with your hobby once you've got enough mechs to field a reasonable force?